Hi everyone, it's been a while. I'm Anna and welcome to our channel. If you're returning, welcome back. So for today's video lessons, we're going to talk about arguments and fallacies. If you are interested to learn more about this, then continue watching. By the way, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and hit the bell notification to see more of our videos. So come on, and let's learn another topic under the methods of philosophizing. But first, let's have a recap. From the last video, I've mentioned about arguments. And can you still recall what is meant by arguments? From the last video, I mentioned about arguments, which is defined as a series of statements which provides reasons that convince a reader or a listener that an opinion is truthful. An argument is made with the assumption that a certain claim is yet to be determined. Argument is not the same as fighting, because fighting is all about expressing anger or hurt without being sensitive to your choice of words. So if you don't know how to argue with reason and logic, then that is what you call fighting. However, an argument is all about coming into an agreement. Argument, if you know how to do it right, can resolve conflicts or differences, while fighting usually makes them worse. Now, my question is, which do you think is the branch of philosophy which focuses on the analysis of arguments? If logic is your answer, then you are correct. Now, there are a number of arguments that are based on faulty reasoning. This kind of arguments are called fallacies. If logic was a sport, then fallacies would be the fouls or the violations. Fallacies violate the rules of logical thought, but often seem plausible or convincing. Here are the commonly heard fallacies. So let's start with ad hominem, or against the person. The characteristics of ad hominem are attacking the person, and the focus, it focuses our attention on people rather than on arguments or evidence. Why would I believe you? You're not even the smartest person in our section. So in this example, the individual attacks the person and not the opinion or his or her opinion. Next fallacy is ad baculum, or appeal to force. The characteristic of ad baculum is using threat or force or an undesirable event to advance an argument. So, for example, my father is known to be the richest man in this town. I'm sure you know what he is capable of. Don't you dare mess up with me. So in this example, the individual threatens the person if ever he or she messed up with him. The next fallacy is, which is actually common, is ad misericordiam. This is very common. Ad misericordiam, or appeal to pity. Pity or emotion. So from the word misery, it means it appeals to pity. So it suggests a strong appeal to sympathy and pity. So for example, ma'am, please accept my late submission of modules. I spent the last 5 days with 4 hours of sleep each day working extra time on it. So please, ma'am, accept it. That is an example of ad misericordiam. So in this example, the student tries to convince the teacher through appealing to his or her, or to the teacher's emotion. The next one is ad populum, or appeal to the people. In ad populum, the idea presented must be true because many or most people believe it. For example, you should turn to channel 6. It's the most watched channel this year. In this example, many people watch channel 6. Therefore, you also have to watch it. Next is ad verecundiam, or appeal to authority. The characteristic of ad verecundiam is insisting that a claim is true simply because a valid authority or expert on the issue said it was true, without any other supporting evidence offered. Example: UFOs do not exist because Carl Sagan said it. So Carl Sagan is a famous astronomer, so you have to believe him. So even without any other supporting ideas or evidence, the person convinces you to believe in him or her because of the authority he mentioned. Another fallacy is appeal to tradition. Appeal to tradition assumed that the idea is acceptable because something has been done a certain way for a long time or traditionally, so it is necessarily the right way of doing it. Example: courtship is necessary and should always be done before entering into relationship because that is the first step in showing or telling how man loves and respects the woman and her family. So this is an example of appeal to tradition because here in the Philippines, it is our tradition that the man should court the woman before marriage or before entering into a serious relationship. Another fallacy is begging the question. Begging the question simply accepts the conclusion without providing real evidence. The argument either relies on a premise that says the same thing as a conclusion which you might hear referred to as being circular or circular reasoning, or simply ignores an important but questionable assumption that the argument rests on. Example, I have the right to free speech, so you cannot stop me from talking. Next fallacy is fallacy of composition. Fallacy of composition assumes that what is true of a part is true for the whole. Example, because all of the components of this car are light and easy to carry, then the car itself must also be light and easy to carry. So you assume that since the parts are light and easy, so is the car as a whole. Next one is fallacy of division. Fallacy of division assumes that what is true for the whole is true for its parts. So it is the opposite of the fallacy of composition. Example, the boys in our neighborhood like to play volleyball. So my new neighbor, Jacob, would surely like to play volleyball with them. You assume that your new neighbor, Jacob, will also love to play volleyball. So what is true for the whole may also be true to its parts. Now, the next one is post hoc or post hoc ergo propter hoc. Or in English, cause and effect. This one simply means that one event is said to be the cause of a later event simply because it occurred earlier. Example, ever since you bought that bag, everything has been going wrong in your life. Dispose it. That may be the reason why you are unhappy. So in the example, the cause there is the bag and the effect is the unhappiness of the person. Another famous fallacy is the slippery slope. The characteristic of the slippery slope is assuming a very small action will lead to extreme outcomes. Example, if we allow our 16-year-old to have her first boyfriend, what's next? A baby? As I've mentioned in the example, the parents, either the mother or the father, assumes that having a boyfriend will lead to pregnancy. There is an exaggeration of the expected outcome. So these are the fallacies that we frequently hear each day. And maybe you're also using that in order to persuade the other person to believe in you. Don't be deceived by a seemingly plausible ideas. You might fall into their trap. So, watch out. Remember, understanding that some arguments may contain fallacies is one of the great marks of a well-educated mind, and it greatly enriches the quality of discussions. Being able to detect them and avoid them will surely help the person in making the right decision. Take note, these are examples of fallacies. That is, they are based on faulty reasoning. No matter how good they may seem to appear, they still violate the rules of logical thought. So, don't argue by using these fallacies. Argue with reason and logic. As an activity, I want you to look for an article or any statements from the social media and detect or determine whether the statement or the argument is a type of fallacy and what kind of fallacy is that. I hope through this lesson you'll be able to determine or to distinguish which is a fallacy or not.